Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 in Dakota Nation's territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. The members of the panel today and zooming in are Diane Knight and Lynn Nesbitt, and my name is Brent McIntyre, and I'll be the chair for today's hearing. The secretary for the hearing this morning is Mr. Stephen Lynn, assisted by Sally Caulfield. The assessors, we have two this morning. The first one presenting is Mr. Arif Das Mohammed, and the second one is Ryan Balderhama for the last three properties. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has been concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing today are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 5 on the docket today. And Mr. Lund, can you please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony?
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Arif Das Mohammed.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please stand. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Jared Story.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. The first item on the docket is 3 Winfield Way. And Mr. Das Mohammed, you may proceed with your presentation.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Board of Revision file number 22-56. Roll number 13096006000. Address is 3 Winfield Way. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. Assessed value is $3,023,000. Parcel use is industrial heavy manufacturing. Number of the buildings is 4. Number of premises is 1. Number of stories is 1 to 2. Actual year built ranges from 1980 to 2020. Effective year built is 1985. Wall heights range from 17 feet to 22 feet. Zoning is M2, manufacturing general. Land area is 75,166 square feet. Plan area is 34,265 square feet. The gross floor area is 36,902 square feet, and same with the leasable area. Land to plan area is 2.19 to 1. So this property was already brought to the panel back in September 30th, 2020. For the same reference here, this assessment is for a new addition that was added to the roll in 2021. On page 23 is the board order from that appeal, and the Board of Revision confirmed that assessment. The assessment at that time was $2,820,000. So the new assessment is for the addition, which is an increase of approximately $203,000.
So then this, just to stop you there, so this is a supplementary appeal?
Yes, it is, yes.
And so the previous board order is not really relevant, is it?
Well, the previous board order is a confirmation of the previous assessment, which is the same reference here.
Yeah, but the supplementary assessment superseded that previous roll year, did it not?
The roll year is 2021, but the reference date is the same. April 1st, 2018.
The reference date is the same, but it really when you issued the supplementary assessment, did it not supersede?
Yes, it did, but the supplemental assessment is just for the addition, right? So the previous order was confirmed, or the previous assessment was confirmed, and this is for an addition now.
I think you're mixing the two together. Anyway, you can proceed.
Yeah, okay. So the supplementary order or the supplementary assessment was an addition of a building of 2,666 square feet, which was added to the roll in 2021. If you turn to the second page, you'll see that the subject sold back in 2012, 6 years prior to the reference date, in the amount of $2,350,000. Currently, the subject is fully owner occupied. However, 6 years prior to the reference date, on page 19 is an income and expense mailer from 2012, where the current owner was a tenant, and at that time they were paying a net rental rate of $6.58. That was in 2012. And if you turn to page 21, there is a listing for the building.
Let me get there. Okay, I'm there. Lynn and
Okay.
Diane, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there? Okay, thanks.
So this listing is from June 2011. If you look at the lease rate, at that time they were renting at $4.95 net rent. So if the and the sale price there you can see is $2.3 million. If you just go back one page, page 20, there is the rent roll from 2012, and you'll see that the client or the owner at that time said that the current owner, which was the tenant at that time, was paying a net lease of $6.58. Okay, so going back to
just I'll stop you for a second. Just how is that relevant when it's not even close to the reference date?
Well, I'm showing you what it was back then, back in 2012. So if prices of properties keep going up, I'm just showing you what the 2012 rental rate was at.
Okay, proceed.
If you turn to page 3, there is my comparables. So all comparables are industrial properties. All comparables are located in a similar market region as the subject. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. The subject has a effective year built of 1985, and the comparables range from effective year built from 67 to 1990. The subject wall heights range from 17 feet to 22 feet. And the comparable wall heights range from 11 feet to 26 feet. The subject leased area is 36,900 square feet, and the comparables range from 26,500 square feet to 46,500 square feet. So the Assessment Taxation Department is assessing the market rent at $5.77 for this subject, and the comparables range from $5.77 per square feet to $6.50 per square feet on net rent, and the weighted average is $6.18 per square feet for the comparables. On the following page is our workup. So again, we're utilizing a net rental rate of $5.77 per square feet. Now, if you look at the rent roll, the 2012 income mailer, income and expense mailer, you'll see that the gross potential rent there was 200 and, sorry, I'm just getting there myself. So 6 years prior to the current assessment, the rental income that they were collecting, the potential net rent, was $223,319.96. So you could see that now we're still under that gross potential rent that they were collecting at that time. So going back to my workup on page 4, we're utilizing a vacancy loss of 3.5%, even though the subject is owner occupied. If you look on page 50, Appendix 15, you'll see that the Johnson report for the fourth quarter of 2017 reports the single tenant industrial investment vacancy rate in Inkster Industrial at 3.4%. So we're slightly higher than that. Colliers is reporting 3.66%. That's on page Appendix 8. We're allowing 2% non-recoverable expenses. This results in an NOI of $196,521. We're utilizing a cap rate of 6.5% to take into account the age, condition, and market region of the subject. This results in a rounded capitalized value of $3,023,000, which is an increase of $203,000 from the previous assessment in 2020, and that's solely due to the addition of the 266 square foot building. On page 8 is the map of the subject property and the comparables utilized. Below that is the subject parcel boundaries. On page 9 is the subject aerial view. And then at the bottom of page 9, you'll see the addition that was added on, before and after pictures. And that addition again is 2,666 square feet. On the following page, on page 10, is the subject street view. And then on the following pages, starting on page 11, is the overhead view of the comparables and the street views. And that goes all the way to page 17. So given the property was listed back in 2011 for $2.3 million and sold it in the market in 2012 in the amount of $2,350,000, and the board already confirmed the 2020 assessment based on the Assessment Taxation Department's evidence, and it's the same reference year of April 1st, 2018. We believe that the assessed value of $2,023,000, which is only an increase of $203,000 for the addition, is fair and equitable, and I respectfully ask that the board confirm this assessment. I'm open to questions.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Chair, just to clear up one issue that arose, this supplementary does indeed supplant the initial appeal, which was appealed further to the municipal board. So from our perspective, this is a full new hearing. So just as you mentioned, just want to make sure that's okay. Very clear. Okay, Mr. Das Mohammed, have you visited this property?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Are you aware of any inspection by the city of Winnipeg at this property in the last few cycles?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so I notice here that on your first page, the parcel use is heavy manufacturing, but this is actually a storage warehouse where the main operation is to store fertilizer. Is that fair to say?
That's the heavy manufacturing is just the zoning that the city has put on this building.
Okay, but the zoning here is M2. Isn't heavy manufacturing typically?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my question becomes then, if the use code in the city's modeled changes to storage warehouse, does that affect any of the?
Actually, if you look at our page 4, the workup, it is assessed as a storage warehouse.
It is. Okay. So you're suggesting then that parcel use that's on the first page does not affect any of the model inputs?
No, it's the assessment that is based on the storage warehouse.
Okay, and just to be very clear, all of the inputs that are used to derive the assessed value are model derived, none are overwritten, or
right? Yes, they are model, but all the comparables utilized are also storage warehouses, SWH.
Okay, perfect. Now, this property was built initially in 1980, and the city has assigned an effective year of 1985. Now, is it fair to say that typically commercial properties of an industrial nature have a lifespan of approximately 50 years if they're not substantially renovated through the course of their economic life? Is that fair?
I don't have my Marshall and Swift in front of me, so I can't answer that question.
Okay, well, we can agree that this property was initially constructed 42 years ago, correct?
Yes, but it's been built up over time.
Right, so it is, and that's my next question, it is what we might call a piecemeal construction. So it was built in different stages. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it's metal frame and metal walls, so that would be considered more of a utility grade than perhaps a masonry construction. Is that fair to say?
It's classified as metal frame walls, yes.
Okay. Now, in terms of the wall height, I believe it's about 40% of this property has 16 feet clear to the joists. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I haven't visited the property.
Okay, so just very quickly, on your page 22, you mentioned this very old sales listing, but if you look at page 22, ceiling height is listed as up to 16 feet to the underside of the joists, and that's about 40%. Now, is that not quite low by today's industrial standards?
No, it depends on what you're utilizing it for.
Okay, but most new product coming onto the market would have superior wall heights.
Maybe so, but we are assigning a 1985 effective year built on this.
Okay, that's fine. Now, the land to plan is 2.19. Now, that would also be considered quite low, would it not?
Well, 4 would be average. So, yeah.
Okay. And just to be very clear, there are, I know you haven't visited this property, but did you notice that this property is actually on a cul-de-sac?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And based on its proximity to the public roadway, there are also mandatory setbacks. Is that fair to say?
I couldn't answer that.
Okay. But if just assume that there are mandatory setbacks that are part of the bylaw of how we are to build and expand this building, that would further frustrate that land to plan ratio, would it not?
Well, the building was built on a piece of property which suited their needs, and they've just kept building on it. So I think I'm not sure what you're saying there.
Well, I'm saying that because
like if they needed parking, if I don't know if you're getting to parking. If they needed parking, I'm sure they've built room for the parking. If you look on the listing on page 21, you could see that even their picture shows big overhead doors where trucks can come in and out of.
Right. Yeah, so, and I guess you won't be aware of this, but one of the issues, and the reason why land to plan is a salient issue in industrial properties is that we need turning diameters for trucks typically, correct?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So the reason why site coverage or land to plan ratios are salient in terms of the risk profile of industrial properties is because we need trucks to be able to come in and have turning diameters.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And in this property, the trucks have to back in. They're not able, there's not enough space for them to have a turning diameter. Are you aware of that?
Well, if you look on page 21, their picture there.
Yeah.
You could see that they can move in and out pretty easily there. Can you not?
No, they can only back in. I spoke with the owner last week, but that's fine. Okay, so let's move on to your rental comps. Now, you selected these, I think you mentioned, based on the fact that they're storage warehouses, general proximity, vintage, and then wall height. Was that considered as well?
Yes.
Now, your comps typically have superior wall heights. Is that fair to say?
That would be assessed the same way or classified the same way as the building, the subject building. So if you see 21, the internal height might be different, but the BOMA standards we measure from the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but the only one that, I mean, 1670 Inkster you have is 11 feet. But that's okay. We'll get to that in 1 second. So I just want to run through these very quickly. The first property has a land to plan of over 3:1. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't put the land to plan values beside them.
Okay.
I'm not.
And also it has a higher degree of developed main floor office space. Is that fair to say?
I'll just bring up the pictures.
Sure. Mr. Chair, I did submit a brief or a supplement or a rebuttal document that includes some of these details, but I can just maybe speak to them in my questioning, if that's sure. You can just go ahead.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. So comp one.
Yeah, so comp one was built in 1984. It's masonry, and the land to plan is 3.11 to 1. And it does include 3,800 square feet of developed main floor office. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, and are you aware, this is something that I wanted to touch on your first page, the office space, about 2,750 square feet in our subject, is all on the second floor. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, that's fine.
So you were looking at the plan to land. You asked me a question about the land to plan for the first comparable. If you look at page 11, you could see that trucks back into that property also.
Oh, okay, but it does have a superior land to plan to our subject.
Well, the land isn't behind the building, and there's no access behind the building. So.
Okay. Now, the second comp that you have here, I understand Owens Creek is a bit atypical. It's a small pocket, so I don't think it's inappropriate to use part of the St. James Industrial and also to use Inkster. But I do note that this property is very close to the intersection of Empress and Sargent, which is across from the Rona store. So would you consider this a superior location to our subject?
No, I would say all the comparables are in a similar location. They're close to the airport. They're close to major thoroughways. Okay.
Comp 3, now that would, I think we can agree that would have a higher exposure on Inkster than our subject. Is that not fair to say?
No, this building actually, the front of the building is not on Inkster. The only part on Inkster is the, if you look at the page 13, the only part that faces Inkster is the east side of the building.
Okay,
so the south. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this property. This is the old Sears warehouse, and it's certainly from.
Yes.
Yeah. It
and
also
all
has,
the trucks back in there also.
It has a low land to plan, that's true, but it also has 26-foot wall heights, correct?
Yes, this is a multi-tenanted building, so.
And that brings me to my next question. So I noticed that the rent that you used was $577, but the rents in that property range from, well, there are four at the reference, $435, $448, and $525, correct?
What I did was I picked out comparables that are similar in size. If you see other rents, they might be bigger or smaller.
Well, the one that I'm looking at here right under it is at 448, and it's about 700 square feet more than the one that you use. So just to be fair, there are a range of rents in there, and it looks like the highest number was selected for that one. Comp 4, I don't have much info on, but Comp 5, I did want to point something out. This is, there were two tenants in this property at the time, and the one that you've used here was a head office for a fashion retailer. This is a high degree of office finish. Are you aware of that?
The office is in the front part. The back is the warehouse part.
Right. Okay. That's fine. All right.
And if you look at if you look at page 15, you could see the overhead picture. The office is in the front, and then all the trucks have to back in there also.
Right. So there were two tenants in there. One was an enterprise that worked with construction tools, retail tools, and then the other tenant was.
Well, what date is that you're looking at? What date were those rents in place?
Well, that's the reference date that you've got here. The rent in place for that.
Well, when this building only had, I believe the tenant was Ricky's.
Right. Yeah, and I have the photos from the Ricky's space, and it's largely office. It has a high degree of main floor office finish. So I'm just suggesting that the rent may be higher in that comparable to our subject based on the fact that we have a low degree of office finish.
Yeah. So if you look at my comps, I mean, all the comps are higher than these are the comps that I could find with the size comparable to the subject. So what I picked was what the sizes that were available, but you could see that all the comparable rents are higher than what we're utilizing for the subject.
Right, but no adjustments were made to these based on higher degree of finish, higher degree of exposure, superior land to building.
No, we didn't. We don't adjust the rent that they are being charged.
Okay. And
but for the subject, we what we did was we used a lower rate, and our cap rate was at 6.5.
Okay, and then Logan is owner occupied at the reference date. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and then lastly, just very quickly, the Mountain Avenue property that was fully renovated in 2014. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, and the land to plan is 5.492. So, okay, that's fine. So now, in terms of your page 4 on the workup, we've determined that these are all market-derived inputs. Now, the vacancy does not consider collection loss, does it?
No, the vacancy is the vacancy of what the vacancy is in the area.
Right. Okay. Now the expenses we've determined. Now, my one question is, on an annual basis, $4,100 for a property that's this large and this old. Don't you think that's particularly low?
The way we derive our shortfall expenses is we send out income and expense mailers to all the industrial properties in Winnipeg, and this is what they fill out and send to us. So those numbers come right from the market.
So not the actual shortfall, but the expenses. So typically, would you agree with me?
The expenses and the shortfall and the vacancy are all coming from the market, from these income and expense mailers that owners submit to us.
Okay. Did you review this owner's income and expense mailer when putting this value together?
When putting the value together, the value is model driven, but the expense and the income expense mailer is on page 18.
Right, and I note that there's almost $4,000 in maintenance supplies reported by this owner. So that hardly covers the expense ratio. I just wanted to point that out. So I guess I understand what you're saying. The income and expense mailers go out, the data is put into the system, but for the purpose of this assignment today, a site-specific consideration was not given to this particular property's performance. Is that?
No, this is a model driven. We don't do site specific on thousands of properties in the city.
Right. Okay. Now the cap rate of 6.5, given what we know about the age, about the frustrated land to building, about the second floor office, do you not think that 6.5% would be considered low from a market perspective?
We adjusted the rent instead of the cap rate. So the rent is lower considering what the market is charging and even what they were charging in 2012.
So
for the tenant was paying over $6.
Okay, but you mentioned that. So okay, 2012 is a long time ago, to be certain. But it.
Well, are you saying that? Are you saying that net rents have gone down since 2012?
No, what I'm saying is that's listed as a gross rent. Firstly, if you look at the page 19, top left corner, that rent that you're suggesting is clearly checked off as a gross rent, is it not?
Okay, but on page 20, the owner has said it's a net lease.
Okay, but I believe that this is the owner occupying this property after they purchased it. If you look at the timing of the sale and when this was submitted, this is. And
so the sale was in June, and this was submitted April. It looks like it's dated for the signature.
Okay, well, I mean, this is over 10 years ago, so I'm not sure. But all right, so. In terms of the broker's reports that you've included here, to talk about cap rates, they would range from 6.5 to 7.75, and that's largely dependent on whether the property is considered an A grade building or a B grade. Now, from your perspective, are you suggesting that this building is an A grade industrial property?
Well, it was leased out before the subject before the owner bought it. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
And they were paying a good rental rate on it. So, and it was for lease in the listing. You could see in 2012, they were charging or they were listing it for $4.95 per square feet.
Right. Okay. So just very quickly, if we go into your appendix, we do have the benchmark definitions, correct? So we do know how the brokers consider or what parameters they use or what metrics they apply to determine if a property is a Class A or Class B, correct? And that's Appendix 12 and Appendix 18. Sorry, 17, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so a Class B property would be competing for a wide range of tenants, average or below rents. Buildings are in good to fair shape and suitable for tenants seeking functional space. That's page 18, and then on Appendix 18, Appendix 12, it says that these are average to good quality industrial buildings, somewhat dated construction, functional space, less excessive features, usually characterized by lower ceiling heights and fewer shipping doors. So based on the brokers' benchmark definitions, would this not be considered a B in the market?
Well, the broker may be considering that, but we don't use a Class A or B. We have a metric for what the looking at the permits and looking at the market and what the kind of rents are coming in. That's how we and the effective year of the building and the market that they're in. That's how we look at cap rates.
Okay, but so you said that you've adjusted the rental rate. But if we have low land to building, a preponderance of lower ceiling heights against today's average, should there not be an adjustment to the cap rate to capture those specific?
Well, we've adjusted the rental rate.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lynn, any questions? Oops.
Sorry, I had to take myself off mute. No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane?
Just a question not a question, but in your, to the assessor, when you finalized everything in your summary, you said the city's value was 2,023,000. I think you meant to say 3,023,000.
Oh, so I'm sorry.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, and I have no questions. So, Mr. Story, you can proceed with your
Wonderful.
presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, 3 Winfield Way in the Omens Creek industrial area. Again, the property is a fertilizer storage warehouse, and it is at the intersection of Omens Creek Boulevard and Winfield Way. I last inspected this property on the morning of April 6, 2022, so about a week ago. And an agent from our firm reviewed it, or actually visited the property prior to this. So we have been in this property at least twice that I'm aware of for the purpose of this assessment cycle. Again, we on page 4 of my brief, we show that the different stages where the property was constructed. The assessor has rightly said that there is a new addition. However, it is completely a cold storage warehouse type building. So there is also an open truck loading shelter that was constructed in 2014, which provides overhead shelter during the loading of the owner's fertilizer products to ensure that rain doesn't get in the trucks when he's loading. The subject is irregular in shape with a total site size of approximately 1.73 acres, leading to a very low land to building ratio of approximately 2.19 to 1. I also note that the second floor is where all of the offices. There's a small room that is being used as an ad hoc lunchroom on the main floor. So when you walk in, there's a nondescript door that's being used as a lunchroom, and then you climb a flight of stairs to the offices. There's a very low degree of finish in the offices, and there's very the office space is quite small. There's no reception. It is somewhat atypical or unusual when you first see it. Okay, so I've gone over the assessor's rents. Now he's used $5.77. We are not worlds apart here. I've used $5.50. I have a market rent study that I've conducted for the purpose of this exercise on page 8. And you can see that I've used properties that were built with effective ages between 1974 and 1987, single occupancy with leasable areas that would be considered reasonably close to the subject, with, in most cases, superior wall heights, and in all cases, superior land to building, and the same zoning at M2. I do note that I have a double entry with Omens Creek, so it does slightly adjust my average and median. So recalculated, it's the average is $5.54, and the median is $5.50. So we've applied a net rent of $5.50 to this property in our valuation. Okay, so in terms of the vacancy, we believe that a vacancy of 4% is appropriate. We note, and this is also in the assessor's information from the Collier study, that the Northwest Winnipeg in Q2 of 17 had a vacancy rate of 4.69, but it was going down by Q4 of 17 at 3.66. However, as I noted in my cross-examination, these do not typically include a consideration for collection or credit loss. So we have adjusted to 4% to adequately capture the market view of this property in terms of vacancy. Shortfall at 375 is not in dispute. Now, for the purpose of this report, you've all heard our talk on non-recoverable. So we do continue to apply an allowance of 7% of effective gross income, and you have all been provided our non-recoverable expense study. I can go into that, or I can leave that with you to.
No, I think we've all heard.
You're all well aware of our position. So we do continue to apply 7% of effective gross income, and typically that's calculated as 2% for structural and 5% for non-rechargeable expenses that are absorbed by the owner in the fee simple valuation of the property. Now, in terms of the cap rate, I've mentioned that I believe that the 6.5% is too low, based on the quality, based on the age of the property, the frustrated land to building, the low degree of finish, the fact that the office building is configured in such a way that it's on the second floor, we conclude that a capitalization rate of no less than 7% is appropriate, if not slightly low, but we do believe that 7% is the appropriate cap rate to apply in this scenario. So I did calculate that if the board is not persuaded to reinstate the 5%, we ask that the cap rate be adjusted modestly to 7.25%. And the rationale behind this is that when we calculate our cap rates, they include the 5%. When we remove the 5%, it has the effect of adjusting the cap rate by 35 to 40 basis points. So in this situation, I'm requesting that it be adjusted to 7.25 if you are not persuaded to reinstate the 5%. And that leads us to a value in that situation of $2,557,000. With the 5% included, our value is $2,510,000. So we do respectfully submit that the value of this property at the reference date not fall within the range of $2,510,000 to $2,557,000. The balance of my brief includes photos. You can see the interior office, the second floor office. Main floor storage is a bit of a, so we could describe that as a catch-all at this point. You can get a sense of the quality of the building. That's on my page 14. That main floor lunchroom that I mentioned, it has a picnic table and some folding tables. It's just been sort of set up in an ad hoc manner as included. And then the warehouse space. And again, this is where it's not a manufacturing facility. It is indeed a fertilizer storage warehouse. And that is the balance of my brief. So barring any questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Das Mohammed, any questions?
Yes. So in your comparables, your comparable number 2 is half the size of the subject property. Would you say that's a good comparable?
Comp number 2 is smaller, to be certain. Yes.
And comp number 5 also. That's half the size of the subject.
So comp number 2, though, if we follow economies of scale, all other things held equal, if the size were larger, then perhaps the rental rate might be depressed, right?
Well, is it equal though? I mean, what?
Well, no, it's superior in terms of wall height. I don't have the land to building there, but regardless, safe to say it is a similar vintage, but it is smaller. You are correct.
And you made a point of the wall heights being 16 feet. You don't have any there that are 16 feet?
Well, I have, do I have any there that are 16 feet? Well, these are wall heights. So typically, the clear height to the joist will be about 1.5 to 2 feet below the wall heights, right?
Okay, so, but you made a point of saying that, I didn't have any comparables in my, all I'm trying to say is our comparables are pretty similar, except yours might be a little smaller.
Well, I have one that's 50,000 square feet. The one on Church is 24,000. The one on Mountain is 26. So they're certainly within range. But I would suggest that if all things were held equal, as the area, the leasable area increases by economies of scale, typically the rental rate would go down, not up. So.
You made a point about the vacancy rate. And you utilize a vacancy rate of 4%. So how are you calculating the 4%?
Sure. So, okay, so this is outlined in greater detail in our cap rate study. But just to summarize, on page 8 of my brief, I have the same Collier's study that you've included in your brief for the Northwest. Now, I understand that a general market vacancy for the entirety of Winnipeg at the reference date, without consideration for collection loss, would be about 3%. That's fine. But when we perform a more granular analysis on this quadrant of the city, the Northwest, we see that the vacancy rate in Q2 of 17 was 4.69. The vacancy in Q4 was moving downward to 3.66. However, again, that doesn't account for vacancy and collection loss, which should be considered. So 4% is typically what we would.
What is collection loss? How are you calculating that?
That's bad debt. So if we're when we're looking at the fee simple interest in a property, there should be some consideration for credit or collection loss, correct?
Well, are you aware that on our income and expense mailers that we send out, that we have a separate way to calculate the bad debts?
Sure, but this is an owner occupied property.
Correct.
So this is an owner occupied property. So clearly they're not going to have a collection loss issue, but if we're looking from a market perspective, fee simple valuation, we would consider, we would give some consideration to collection loss. And I will point out too, in my page 8, the Johnson report at December 17 reports that the overall vacancy in Inkster is 4.5% with investment grade vacancy at 5.4%. So
sorry, what page was that?
That's my page 8. It's right, it's in that
okay,
section of vacancy.
If you turn to my page, give me 1 second. Okay, so my page 15, appendix 15, there's the Johnson report from 2017 Q4.
Okay, appendix 15. Yep, and Inkster is at 3.4%. And
Yes.
appendix 16, okay, that's multi-tenant, so that's not us. Okay, and on appendix 14, Inkster is 4.5%.
That's total total inventory.
Right.
So and then the second page is single tenant, and the third page is multi-tenant. So this would be considered a single tenant.
It's single tenant investment vacancy. Now, when
Okay, so even if you were to look at the industrial total vacancy, it's at 3.5%.
yeah, no, that's fine. But the total vacancy rate summary for Inkster by the Johnson report is 4.5%, which is still higher than what we're suggesting.
So it's your position that this is not an investment grade property?
No, I think that a grade A property, as we've discussed by the benchmarks that you've included by the brokers in your study, would indicate that this
But
is.
are you aware of the definitions that the Johnson report uses?
Have you included them here for?
No, I haven't, but are you aware of them?
Well, I've certainly read the Johnson report, but I can't recite them to you.
Okay.
And quite frankly, the board doesn't have it either.
And those are all my questions.
Thank you. Diane, do you have any questions? Oh, she's off.
No, I do not at this time.
Lynn?
No questions.
And I have no questions, so that concludes the first property.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. The next property is roll number 12097631800, Vacant Industrial. Let me just bring it up. Sure, I think you've been before the board before, right? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thought I recognized you. And you're dealing with the remaining Altus properties?
Yes.
Okay, any preliminary issues on any of them?
No preliminary issues.
No preliminary issues. Okay, Mr. Das Mohammed, you're presenting on this property as well?
Yes.
Okay, you may go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we need to affirm the applicant.
Oh, correct. Sorry.
Please stand. Madam applicant, please state your full name.
Therapy.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Okay, you may proceed.
Okay, Board of Revision file number 22-48, roll number 12097631800. Roll year is 2022. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. Assessed value is $542,000. Land area is 154,691 square feet. And I believe the applicants are asking for confirmation on this.
Thank you. Ms. Khan?
We respectfully request that the Board of Revision confirm the 2022 supplementary assessments under subsection 54(1) of the Act at this time.
Thank you. Diane, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Lynn?
No, I don't.
And I don't have any questions. So that concludes the second one on the second property on the docket. So we'll go to the next one. Roll number 12097612700. And Arif, you can read it into the record.
I think Mr. Valderrama is on these, the rest of the properties.
Oh, he is, okay.
Ryan, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
You can hear us?
Yes, I could. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Ryan Valderrama.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ryan, if you want to read, make your presentation, you can proceed.
Yes. The next one, just pull it up. Open the screen here. Okay, the first one, or actually the third one for the day, we have a file number of 22-50 or 50. It has a roll number of 12097612700. We're dealing with the roll year of 2022, the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The property has an assessed value of $7,620,000 and a liability of grant and a classification of other property. It is assessed with a single-story building with 5 sections, with an effective years built of 1960 to 1991, a construction class of A, fireproof structural steel frame, a zoning of M1 manufacturing light, a land area of 359,806 square feet, a planned area of 45,924 square feet, and a gross floor area of 50,722 square feet, and a land to plan ratio of 7.835. I believe, Mr. Chair, that this file is being requested to be confirmed, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Farah, do you want to comment on that?
We respectfully request that the Board of Revision confirm the 2022 supplementary assessment under subsection 54(1) of the Act at this time.
Lynn, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Diana?
Thank you.
No questions.
And I have no questions.
Thank you.
The next property is roll number 12097617000. And Ryan, you can proceed with your presentation and read the record in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number of 22-49 or 49. Again, the roll number is 12097617000. We're dealing with the roll year of 2022. With a reference date of April 1st, 2018, the property has an assessed value of $3,309,000, a classification of other property, and a liability of grant or grantable. It has a single-story building with 3 sections with effective years built of 1962 to 1983. It has a construction class of S metal frame walls. Has a zoning of C or character or multiple use. Has a land area of 209,088 square feet, a plan area of 830 square feet, and a gross floor area of 830 square feet. Has a land to plan ratio of 251.913 to 1. And I believe this one too, Mr. Chair, is being requested to be confirmed by the appellant.
Thank you. And Farah?
We respectfully request that the Board of Revision confirm the 2022 supplementary assessment under subsection 54(1) of the Act at this time.
Lynn, any questions?
No questions.
Diane?
No questions.
And I have no questions.
Thank you.
That concludes that matter. The last one on the docket is roll number 12097624500. And Ryan, you can read the record in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next one has a file number of 22-47, 22-47. It has a roll number again of 12097624500. The roll year we're dealing with is 2022 with the reference date of April 1st, 2018. Has an assessed value of $609,000 with the classification of other property and a liability of grant or grantable. I believe this is a rail spur line, and I believe that there is also a request to confirm this appeal, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Farah?
We respectfully request that the Board of Revision confirm the 2022 supplementary assessment under subsection 54(1) of the Act at this time.
Thank you. And Lynn, any questions?
No questions.
And Diane?
No questions, no.
And I have no questions, so that concludes this property. Thank you very much. We have heard all the items scheduled today, and this hearing is now adjourned.